This podcast brought to you by Ring. Save big right now on select Ring doorbells and cams and give the gifts that keep on giving. Find gifts that help handle all those deliveries.
Hey, again. Leave it behind the chair with the others.
And gifts that tell you when creatures are stirring.
Biscuit, get away from the ornaments. Good girl.
Shop the holiday sale for deals on select devices at Ring.com. Find unexpected gifts for less right now at Ring.com.
1, 2, 3, 4. Those are numbers. But you already knew that. If you want to know what number you're going to pay each month for your car, use Kelly Blue Book My Wallet on Auto Trader. They're really good at numbers. Auto Trader.
Who'd want to do that? Sequels suck. No, come on, man. Oh, please. By definition alone, they're inferior films.
It's bullshit generalization. Many sequels have surpassed their original.
Oh, yeah?
Name one.
All right, and hello, and welcome to Unequal Sequel. My name is Dave, and I'm one of the two hosts of this very exciting podcast.
And I'm Rich, and I am the other one of these two hosts of this exciting podcast. Think of me as C-3PO to Dave's R2-D2. I can speak loads of languages, and he just talks in bleeps and whistles.
Again, it's very true. The premise of Unequal Sequel is very simple. We ask our guests their best ever sequel, their worst ever sequel, and finally their dream sequel.
And of course, because it's us and we like to talk, and we especially like to talk movies, we often drift off and talk about other stuff as well.
We also do delve slightly into spoiler territory because we talk about old movies most of the time. So be warned, we do spoil movies.
But only when they're like 25, 30 years old. So, you should have seen them by now.
Exactly. And we're not sorry. And on today's episode, we are joined by Fiona Underhill.
Fiona is a film journalist, editor-in-chief of Jumpcut Online film magazine. And she also is a bit on the Jumpcast podcast as well. And
she does.
She's been also good enough to come on our other podcast, the Baywatched podcast, a couple of times because she lives in LA.
We were very excited to sit down and talk all things sequels with Fiona.
This is Fiona Underhill's Unequal Sequels. Enjoy!
Do you remember the first sequel that you got excited about or remember seeing at the cinema?
First sequel I saw at the cinema. Oh, that's a question.
Or you got excited about? You remember getting like, oh God, I can't wait until Home Alone 2 dropped.
There definitely would have been ones before this, but in terms of like getting really, really hyped for a sequel, my biggest memory of that is The Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
Because obviously there'd been such a large gap between Star Wars and then the prequels. I know I'm slightly cheating here because it's a prequel, not a sequel. Yeah, that was definitely a case of like the hype was through the roof. The original trilogy had been re-released in cinemas, I think in 96, I think it was.
Yeah.
So like everyone was kind of primed and ready for Phantom Menace in 99. And I bought all the magazines you could get. I had like all the Vanity Fair covers for Phantom Menace. I was so excited, and yeah, and then Phantom Menace came out.
Do you not have fond memories of Phantom Menace? Because most people we talk to, and they saw it when they were little, like loved it, and they try and defend it now.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't little, so I don't have that excuse. I was like 19. I did like it when I first saw it, though. I'm not going to like pretend I was too cool for it, because I mostly kind of liked it when I first saw it. I certainly, and I will defend to this day, things like the pod race sequence. I still think it's like a fun movie in a lot of respects. But the thing that I just, can't hold sway with is the whole midichlorians like disaster. The fact that Lucas tried to over philosophize the entire thing. And obviously that kind of keeps going in his prequel trilogy. But yeah, the whole Immaculate Conception and the mother and the midichlorians and all of that is just where it lost me.
Wasn't it about like a tax rebate as well? Like, is that why?
Yeah, there's a lot of tax sort of talk, which any big, family blockbuster is missing. Is like debates over politics and tax and things. But I did love, and I still love this now, like I really like Natalie Portman in it, and I love the costume design and the handmaidens. So that, like, I remember at the time it really blew my mind, the whole handmaiden thing and her being in disguise and swapping with Keira Knightley and all of that.
Yeah.
Like that, I was proper like, wow, mind blown. But yeah, so how I feel about the prequels has certainly had its ups and downs over the years. And we recorded a pod actually on the prequels, and I shockingly rewatched Attack of the Clones and liked it way more than I remember liking it the first time I watched it. I know, I honestly, I was shocked myself. Because that is a sequel we can talk about.
I know. What do you enjoy about that now? Let's give that some defence.
If you'd asked me only very recently, I would have said Attack of the Clones is by far the worst of the three. It's so long and boring. All I could really remember about it is just stretches of it that just seemed to be incredibly long and dull and just nothing happening. But when I rewatched it, there was stuff that I enjoyed. There's
we're waiting.
Yeah, I know.
I'm a little like you in the fact that I didn't hate Phantom Menace. Yeah. I watched it in the cinema too. I was about 19. I didn't hate it. I thought it was okay. Some of the Trade Federation stuff kind of loses you, but it's all right. But Attack of the Clones was abysmal.
I know.
I remember sitting in the cinema thinking, I'm going to punch myself in the face to make this stop. It was
my memory
horrible.
Of watching it in the cinema is it just being interminable. Just when is this ever going to end? This is so boring and awful. But when I rewatched it, I think Ewan's performance as Obi-Wan is the saving grace of that whole prequel trilogy, really, because he's the only one who's not phoning it in, who gets where he is and what he's doing, and because he does have a little bit of that legacy in his family with his uncle and stuff, I feel like he is genuinely happy to be there and excited about it. And I do think he his performance is infused with his kind of sense of childlike wonder at the fact that he's in a Star Wars movie and stuff. And I think he does, he's good. So that does make up for a lot. But yeah, there are the whole clone army thing. It's the ending that just stretches on and on and on, and you're just is this ever going to end?
It's the horrible, horrible love story.
Yes, the dialogue is, but it's entertaining in its own way. The talk of sand, the horror of sand.
Oh, the sand. It gets everywhere.
Yeah.
It needed Harrison Ford to pull George Lucas aside and do you can write this shit, George, but you can't say it. That's what it needed.
Yeah. I mean, if anyone has ever got in his own way in life, it's George Lucas, isn't it? It's someone who had such a good thing, and then everything that was good about that thing, he just seemed to sort of forget, and he just made it way, way too complicated and just tied himself in knots, thinking, oh yeah, we need this whole complicated backstory, midichlorians, we need, this love story, and, Hayden Christensen, I'm sorry, casting-wise and acting-wise is a bum note. I mean, although I do think the last one is good, and he's better in that last one.
Yeah.
But, yikes. Yeah.
It's amazing how every conversation we have about Secrets podcast somehow always comes back to Star Wars. It's so important to everyone's youth, it seems, and growing up, especially when it comes to what was their first sequel, Return of the Jedi or Phantom Menace or something like that.
Yeah.
Do you remember going to the rental shop, picking favourite sequels out there, Short Circuit 2, anything like that in the 80s?
I love Short Circuit 2. I don't have a distinct memory of renting that from the video shop though. I'm a Ghostbusters 2 defender.
Join the club.
My hands up.
Love Ghostbusters 2.
Yeah, I really don't understand people's problem with that movie. I think it's hilarious. I think it's got so much going on. It's got a really good villain. I like Ghostbusters too. Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey.
Yeah, you're a big fan.
Is one of my favourite ever sequels, because I think it's so much better than Excellent Adventure. I don't dislike Excellent Adventure, but I think Bogus Journey really takes it up to a whole other level. I think the heaven and hell sequences are amazing. I just think it's got so much going on, and it's quite complicated for what it is. Like, there's there's like aliens, there's station, there's heaven and hell, there's death, obviously, absolute, one of the most iconic characters and performances ever.
Yeah.
It's got so much going on, but I think it really works. And yeah, that's definitely one of my favourite childhood sequels.
I was thinking that the other day, because we were talking about, we couldn't think of a comedy that's got a good sequel. And then the other day I was sat there, I was like, Bogus Journey! Bogus Journey's a great sequel!
It is. It's such a good sequel. Brilliant.
This is where I have to admit I've never seen it.
Right, well that's your evening
my homework,
after this podcast sorted.
Honestly, I don't know if I've watched any Bill and Ted. It's one of these moments when, I know this is incredible, where I think I've had, it's like when I watched Willow the other day, I thought, oh yeah, I've seen Willow loads of times.
Yeah.
Never seen Willow. Plus everything's like built into the culture now, so you're like, oh, excellent, dude. Yeah, I've seen that. And
I'm just really happy that there's films that I've seen and you haven't. It's not normally the other way around.
And what is annoying, at the moment on Now TV, or Now as they call themselves, there's the first one and the third one which just got released. There's Bogus Journey.
No Bogus Journey.
No Bogus Journey. So I can't bring myself to watch the first one and then the third one.
You can't do that. The Bogus Journey is the best one. I've seen all three, and I did like the new one. I did like it a lot, but yeah, Bogus Journey is just on a different level for me.
Fee, what is your favourite sequel ever?
Okay, so this might be surprising, I don't know. The first thing I thought of when you asked me is Scream 2. So Scream 2 is my favourite of the Scream franchise. It's going to sound really weird me talking about this film, but I was kind of obsessed with it when it came out. So again, my obsession, in those days was like related to kind of magazines. So like Empire had this Scream 2 photo shoot. I can remember it and picture it as clear, like as it could be in front of me right now. And it's kind of like this blue, it's like got this blue filter on it, and obviously it's very late 90s, early 2000s in terms of its fashion and everything. And that photo was like my happy place for a long time. I used to just gaze at it. But I love Scream 2, and the reason I love it is probably, again, people will laugh at the reason I love it so much. One of the main reasons I love it is that it came out when I was on the cusp between secondary school and university, and it's like my favourite college film of all time. And it's like American colleges were like, because I've been a big like America-phile all my life, and I now live in the US. So I've always been obsessed with America, and like American colleges, they always looked so cool to me. Like the fact that they have that quad, and they're always really leafy, and they've got nice buildings and stuff. So it's the fact that it was this amazing college movie, and to me I was like, and also I was a drama student, so I studied theatre at university, right? Yeah. And Sydney is a theatre student in Scream 2, and there's this whole plot where she's like in this Greek tragedy, and like it's this amazing full-blown production. This is like what I thought, me going to university, oh yeah, this is totally what it's going to be like, and I'm going to be in a Greek tragedy with red, satin blowing all over the place in a wind machine, and it's going to be real like high production values, all this money that goes into these like theatre productions in American colleges. Like, British universities are not like this, so I have to tell you. But yeah, so that was a massive reason why I love Scream 2 so much. So yeah, my reasons are slightly bizarre. It's, the whole college thing, and the fact that Sydney is like a drama student, and the whole theatrics of it I really loved. But, obviously it's also the actors who are in it. So, oh my god, I'm going to embarrass myself.
It's
What's
everyone.
her name again?
Everyone.
Yes,
Everyone's
in it.
Everyone from the late 90s is in this movie.
Yeah, Laurie Metcalf. Okay, so she gives like an absolutely iconic performance in Scream 2. But yeah, every kind of hot young actor of the day was in it.
Even for like a minute, even if they're in it for like 1 minute, like Joshua Jackson's in it for like 2 minutes.
Yeah, and that scene, that's the other thing. Again, this is like, to me, this was like ultimate gold. At my age, bear in mind, like I was, just finishing secondary school, just looking forward to university. And the fact that they were sitting around talking about films in like a college classroom, again, to me, that was like, oh my God, do people at university do this? And like, I couldn't imagine anything better or cooler. I was like, people like sit around in a university classroom and like argue about films, and that's just so cool.
It is the dream.
I just couldn't imagine anything better, basically. So yeah, there's every kind of hot young actor is in it. Timothy Olyphant is amazing in it. Laurie Metcalf is amazing in it. Like, the performances are all obviously dialed up. I also think it's got one of the best opening sequences of all time. I do really think Jada Pinkett Smith's performance, I think she's so underrated as an actor. This is like segueing a little bit, but Magic Mike XXL, one of my favourite sequels of all time. Sorry, it is related because it's a sequel.
No, it's fine.
Magic Mike XXL, okay, is one of the best sequels of all time, okay? And Jada Pinkett Smith is amazing in it. Like, literally should have been Oscar nominated. And I think in Scream 2, she's also brilliant. When you think about how much screen time she has and her impact in just those few minutes in that. I mean, and also the fact that it had to measure up to the Drew Barrymore opening in Scream 1, and you think, oh, that, there's no way they can match that or top that in any way. But I think Scream 2, like the intro, I really, really love. I think it's so strong. And I know it's bold to say it's, the equal of the first Scream's opening sequence, but to me it is.
Oh, it is, definitely. And I love how meta this movie is. To use one of the kids' term now. Just like the fact that Omar Epps and Jada Pinkett Smith are basically gone in the first few scenes. Like, that's it. But like, and I think that's awesome. But like that you've got Heather Graham playing the the Drew Barrymore thing on the screen whilst the real murder's happening in real life. I love it. It's so good.
I loved it. And then, because part of my drama course at university was about, like, postmodern, like, and things that were self-referential and stuff. And to me, it was like Scream 2, oh, wow, like, it's amazing. But yeah, Randy as well was like, I absolutely loved him from the first Scream. Like, he was my favourite character. And then his death in Scream 2 is, like, the most shocking moment for me. I was just, couldn't believe what I was seeing. And it really affected me. I was like, oh, Randy.
And all the like when it happens and the blood dripping from the bottom of the van, I was like,
oh man,
that's a
hard.
Really good kill, that one.
It's also so much fun. I forgot how fun it is.
It is fun.
Yeah.
Incredible.
And the fraternity like culture at American College, the fraternity sorority thing, which you see a bit in Scream 2 as well, because like Sarah Michelle Gellar is in this film. You see a bit with Jerry O'Connell and his like fraternity kind of, again, the whole Greek thing where they're I think there's like a toga party in it or like an initiation or something. So yeah, that again, to me, that's fascinating because that's like an American college experience that we don't have in the UK.
Yeah.
I did slightly struggle when I was watching it to separate it from Scary Movie.
Yeah.
Well, I have never watched Scary Movie films for this very reason. Because their existence irks me, because Scream was a satire and was self-referential, and it absolutely comments on itself already. So to have a parody of Scream, which is already like a parody, to me, it never made sense. It's like, why are you taking the mick out of Scream, which is already taking the mick out of horror movies? Like, to me, it just didn't need to, like, it's too far. You've gone too far. You don't need Scary Movie to take the mick out of something that's already taken the mick out of itself. It's just...
I think Scary Movie was using an opportunity to take the mick out of everything. It wasn't just Scream that gets in there.
I know.
It was hard to go, I remember this bit, and I'm like, oh no, I remember this bit from Scary Movie. This is like, Yeah, and his name is Dewey, not Doofy, which is what he's called in Scary Movie.
Oh, we have to talk about David Arquette. He's rubbish.
Is
Do
he?
you think?
He's so rubbish. Sorry.
He's the one.
I think
one
he's
lead.
well cast. No, I don't agree with that actually.
Every time he says a line, he looks like he's having a really difficult poo. Like it's just.
But I think it suits his character. I think he's well cast for that character. It's like, the character is a bit of a wet blanket, and I do like him and Courtney Cox, and obviously there was the whole fact that they were getting together in real life as well.
That's true. There is good chemistry between them.
Yeah, I think they have good, because they're so different, and she is like, so, I'm the hard-hitting journalist and I'm not going to fall for your charms kind of thing, but then she does. Oh, that's appealing to me.
I love how you defend this movie. It's amazing.
I love it. I love Scream 2. It's my favourite.
So did you get to see this in the cinema?
I did, yeah. So Scream 1, I have a clear memory of getting in the car after watching Scream 1 and being scared, like checking the back seats kind of thing. I don't remember that as clearly with Scream 2, but I quite possibly was feeling a bit nervous afterwards. Because that's my thing with horror, is that I can be quite a wuss about horror, but I also love horror. So I'm always fighting this instinct within me. But I love horror comedies. It's like my favourite kind of subgenre of horror. So I love it when I love gore and anything kind of gruesome. I love loads of blood and gut. That's a good part of horror for me. I don't like it where it's more kind of psychological. And I think, Neve Campbell, her performance, the reason we all remember these movies and they've been so long lasting and we're getting a new one, is because she absolutely sells it.
She's
100% serious. Her fear is completely straight. She's not in any way, kind of taking the mick or laughing at herself or anything like that. I just think her performance absolutely sells these films, and her fear is genuine, and I feel that fear. And especially when she's just so exhausted and like, just leave me alone, and why is it still going on, that kind of thing. So you can have all the fun and you have like Timothy Olyphant and Laurie Metcalf being totally OTT, and I love that, but I think it wouldn't work if you didn't have Neve Campbell at the centre of it all, because she is just this force in the middle of it.
Yeah.
I think another really important performance is Liev Schreiber as well. He's
so good.
Creepy. He's just
really
so creepy in these movies. But the first one and this one, he just plays creepy so well. And you're like, it is you. It's got to be you. You're so creepy.
He's so ambiguous, isn't he? Like, he's really good at playing that, is he or isn't he? And what his intentions are and what's going on with him. Yeah, he's very good.
I've got to ask, did you guess the twists? As in, did you guess who the murderer was? Because I think this does quite a good job of like trying to point the finger at different people. Like that.
It does, yeah.
The boyfriend, you're not quite too sure. The best friend, the cops at some point.
I'm not very good at guessing twists, to be honest. I'm like most twists take me by surprise. So yeah, I'm always like, oh, everyone's a suspect, and I'm never that good at guessing who the real murderer is.
Yeah, I never saw the mother coming. That was the one that for me,
Yeah.
like the best friend I saw. Oh, I can get that. He's into his films as well. But the mum.
Do we know what Timothy Olyphant's character? What his motivation for being a murderer was? Was he just a psychopath?
I think it was just a nutter.
Just
and
like
he was tracked down by.
Kind of.
He wanted to be famous
killer,
nutter,
I
yeah.
guess.
Oh, okay. He wanted to be famous. That was it.
He went big on this
got
movie.
that.
He went
Yeah, you
He
did.
did.
big.
Him like scratching his head with the knife. I can remember that so clearly when he's got the knife and he's just like looking down, and it's like there's so many parts of this that just like I said, I haven't even watched it recently, but there's so much about it that just sticks in my head.
Yeah.
I watched it and I was like, Timothy Olyphant is still a very handsome man. And in this picture, like when he was younger, you're like, how has he always looked this good? Damn it.
Yeah.
Why has he not got...
And amazing hair as well.
I'm jealous of the hair.
How's he not bald and fat by now? It's not fair.
He just look pretty much the same, doesn't he?
I do think he looks a little bit older than the rest of the kids. He looks like a mature student in the first scene with everyone, especially when you're sitting next to Joshua Jackson Pacey, who's always looks about 13.
Yeah, he's so baby-faced, isn't he, Joshua Jackson? He's got that round face.
Yeah, there's some really clever kills in here, but my favourite use and camera steals and stuff is when they're, no spoiler, attacking Dewey on the other end of the glass. I thought that was great.
Yeah.
I think that's my my favourite scene at Scream 2. Like I said earlier, I forgot how fun it was.
Right.
And I remember watching it on my brother's VHS player on his little, the 4 free little TVs that you have in the bedrooms at the time, and absolutely loving it. I have no recollection, and I've definitely watched 3 and 4. I have no recollection of those films. I could not tell you who the murderers were.
3 scarred me, to be honest, and full confession, I may not have even seen 4 yet. I need to watch 4 before the new one comes out. But the reason I haven't seen 4, if I haven't, which I'm pretty sure I haven't, is because 3 was so bad that it kind of scarred me, and I was just like, no, no, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, that's the one with
Is it
James
still Wes
Sunbelt.
Craven, the third one?
He did all 4.
He did all 4, did he? I don't remember the third or the fourth one either.
The third one is a mess. It's got Scott, can't remember his surname, Scott Foley, is it? I think is the murderer. Oh, God, I just remember it being bad anyway.
But Richie's got Jane Silent Bob in it.
Is it?
Yeah.
In the fourth one or the third one?
Third one. In like
Really?
the film within a film, Stab 2 or something, they rock up.
Nice.
So you're not a completist if you haven't seen.
I might have to
3.
watch that then. Just.
I definitely will before the new one comes out. I'm definitely gonna rewatch or watch all of them.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back. I'm also gonna go back and watch Scream 1 because I still can't really remember that. To be honest, I remember being pretty terrified of it all.
Scream 1 is amazing. Like,
some of the jumps.
When I say Scream 2 is my favourite, like that is not any kind of shade on Scream 1 at all. But Scream 2 just it's got those extra elements that I was explaining, like the college setting, as opposed to a high school setting, is a big like draw for me, and also the new addition of those actors. I love.
So you wouldn't put that category in like a sequel better than the original?
I would for me, but I realise that's a very personal opinion.
Yeah, that's why we do this podcast. We've had some weird choices, so.
I know it's kind of controversial to say 2 is better than 1, but for me it is.
Your opinion.
I prefer
your
2.
opinion can't be wrong because it's your opinion. This is what.
I think I agree with you. I think 2's better than 1. I prefer Scream 2 to Scream.
I enjoy it more. It's just got so much going on, so many elements.
Yeah, it's layered like lasagna. Yeah, it's so much fun. I keep saying it's so much fun. It's so clever.
It is. I mean, I know I'm kind of like mocking myself now for like how amazing I thought like all the postmodern stuff was. At that time, at my age, my impressionable age, I was like, wow, man, this is like so clever the way they've done this.
Did you ever have those conversations and get to have a class like that? Did you ever live out that dream?
Not really. I mean, obviously my course was theatre, so we did have conversations, I guess, like that. But it was focusing on like Renaissance plays as opposed to film, so doesn't have quite the same level of cool.
That's the one thing I never bought. There's 2 things I didn't really understand in this. One, Nev Campbell was a drama. I don't think that would have been her pick.
Yeah, it doesn't really suit her character. I agree with that. Like, yeah, I don't see her as a theatre kid, really.
And 2, this is America. Why did they not all have guns? That's what I imagined.
I was thinking that. I was like, why hasn't anyone got a gun? Like this person's got a knife.
I think at college, though, it's understandable that they wouldn't, like in their frat house or sorority house or whatever, they wouldn't have them.
Dewey might have a gun, right?
Or Gail.
Yeah,
Gail would definitely have a gun.
Literal show. Yeah, Gail would. Yeah, definitely.
But apart from that, it's nearly perfection.
It is.
And I love that someone's actually picked a horror.
Yeah.
I think it's the first time on our podcast, Rich.
It is, and neither of us are massive into horror, are we? So it's nice to try to. I mean, I have seen Scream 2, but like I'm sort of the opposite to you, Fee. I think I like the really psychological ones, and the really gory ones just make me feel a bit poorly. Things like Hostel and stuff, I can't watch that.
It's the psychological ones, especially like they nearly always about grief, because obviously horror, people are dead, and I struggle quite a lot with the really psychological ones. Like I will put off watching them. Like I put off watching The Babadook, for example, for literally years, because I was like, this is going to really upset me, and I just think, I'm rarely in the mood to be traumatized and upset, and that's what I often find in horror films, is that I'm just like crying because I'm upset. It's not so much that I'm scared, I just get too upset about them. But all the gory ones, I just end up laughing at those, so the gorier the better.
I'm getting more wussy. I can't be dealing with it anymore.
Oh yeah, I think that happens to men as they reach a certain age, Dave.
Oh,
I think we just get wussier and wussier as we get older.
I also think having kids makes you a lot softer as well. So like,
definitely,
if it's a storyline involving children, it always just upsets me. So yeah, that's the other thing about it.
What is the sequel you've most been disappointed by? So I'm not saying it has to be a bad sequel. It's just you're like,
Other people have probably mentioned this one, but I hesitate to bring it up. the last of the sequel trilogy. Again, sorry, I'm going back to Star Wars.
It's fine.
So the last one, Rise of Skywalker, is that what it was
We've
called?
had some top hate roasts on, like, we've had 2 people pick that as their worst.
I bet you've had other people mention this. I mean, I'm not going to say anything that hasn't already been dissected to death like a million times, but I was really invested in those first 2 films. I think the first 2 are amazing. I loved the characters. I was really invested in like Finn and Poe, in Rey, in Ben Solo. I cared about those characters. Like they had got me. They'd grabbed me in the first 2 films, and I cared about them. I was invested in them, and then I felt like the third film it felt like they made it in a massive rush and just, like, oh, we've got this pressure to make this third film and we have to make it now and let's just cobble something together. And like they hadn't planned it. They hadn't planned those 3 films in advance. I don't know what they were doing. And people criticise the second one for this, and they blame Rian Johnson and whatever, but I don't agree with that at all. I'm strongly, a massive defender of that film. And he left it in a perfect place. They didn't have to think, oh, some people didn't like that one, so now we have to retcon everything and go back and change it. And I really am upset about it, to be honest, because they didn't need to do that stupid thing with Rey and Rey's parentage. I hate it so much.
Yeah. Just that they didn't have a plan makes me so angry.
It makes me so angry too. It's like they're paid literally millions of dollars to have a plan, and you don't have a plan.
It almost shows contempt for the fans of the series that they didn't plan it out beforehand. They didn't sit down and write it as a 3-part to start with. I mean, I'm one of those people that didn't like the second one, but I in no way think the third one's great either. In fact, I don't think I've ever been so angry in the cinema as the end of Rise of Skywalker. So, I'm certainly not a defender of it, but I mean...
Disappointed is a lovely way of thinking about it.
It's a very good way of putting it, absolutely.
And the way that Finn and Poe were massively like shafted and sidelined, and Kelly Marie Tran as well, they were all just like, we're not interested in any of you anymore, we're just going to push you to the side, none of you matter. I like Rey and Ben Solo, and I'm one of those sad people who actually was rooting for them to kind of... I personally did like the fact that they kissed, and I know that's controversial.
Oh, that's first.
I know. But I don't like the fact that the film just completely forgot all of the other characters, basically, just for Rey. And also the way they shoehorned Luke and Leia, well, Luke especially, into that third one, and Han Solo and Leia. The way they shoehorned them all in, I really, really hated. Oh, God, there's just so much I don't like about it. So much.
I still, to this day, just want to know what Finn wanted to tell everyone. What was it that Finn wanted to say that he didn't say? What is it?
Yeah.
He's going to tell Poe he loves him.
He spent the entire film just going, Rey. Like,
got to tell you something. What?
Yeah.
What? Come on, tell us.
That was his role in that film.
Ugh. What is your least favourite / worst sequel ever?
Again, it's a recent one because the wounds are still fresh, and I really hate having to do this because a woman director who I'm a big champion of women directors, and I really try to support their work, and I will always watch it even if it's potentially something I'm not going to like. I will always support them, and I don't like tearing them down, but Wonder Woman 84.
Yeah.
I was looking forward to that film so much. I can't even explain, because I loved the first film. The first film was like a 5-star movie to me. I loved everything about the first one. And to go from World War One, which is a setting I love, to the 80s, and the fact, when I found out it was going to be set in the 80s, honestly, my height could not have been higher because I love film set in the 80s. I am a complete, sucker for things like Stranger Things and all of the retro stuff that's going on a lot at the moment. So when I found out it was set in the 80s, honestly, I was so excited. I couldn't wait. And I realised there was a pandemic and I ended up watching it at home, and I realised that is a factor. However, oh my goodness me, it's a bad film. It's so bad.
No one sets out to make a bad movie, but
I know.
But somehow they did.
They definitely did.
The script is really, really bad. Nothing made sense. This is similar to the issue with Star Wars, where I just feel like there were too many people in the room. This is this is all I can imagine happened.
Let it out.
Too many people in the room, too many voices, and no one sat down with a proper clear plan of what that film should have been, because to me it's just utter chaos. So for example, Kristen Wiig could have been an amazing villain in that film.
Agreed.
She was great in the character. I loved her. Loved again the costume design, particularly associated with her. She could have been a brilliant villain, and that would have been a good film. But Pedro Pascal's character, completely, I didn't like him. He didn't need to be there, and also there didn't need to be any, why, we're all distracted by him, and then Kristen Wiig's character just didn't get any chance to shine, because whatever she had going on then had to be connected to Pedro Pascal. And I really deeply hated it. Also, who on earth thought it was a good idea for whatever the hell was going on with Chris Pine's character? So the fact that he was not Chris Pine, but he was actually somebody else, who
God,
thought that was a good idea?
It's one of my bugbears is when they were give him such a good send-off in the first one.
Yes.
It's really good. They made him a hero. I think that's a great character. And then they try and retcon them back in. And
I didn't even particularly object to him being resurrected or whatever. That wasn't particularly my issue. I knew in advance he was going to be in it. And I was like, fair enough, whatever. And one of the very few scenes I enjoy in Wonder Woman 84 is when he gets a little makeover scene, where he tries on different 80s outfits. I quite like that bit. But why? Why did he have to be in the body of somebody else? That's so weird.
Creepy.
So weird.
It's so
creepy.
weird. Yeah.
It was totally unnecessary. Why did they think they had to do that? It just didn't make any sense. And then everything about their relationship then was totally rushed and botched, and everything we've invested in from the first film was completely undone in the second one, because she's now become this complete sad sack who's pining over him, and everything's about him, and then she gets him back but in the body of someone else, and then he still ends up leaving or whatever he does at the end, and it's just all of that was awful, and we didn't need any of it. Oh God.
Isn't it morally wrong as well what they do? The idea of it is just plain
time.
wrong.
Yeah. They use somebody's body in a manner which is not also there's quite a lot of dodgy stuff going on in this film, not least the entire Middle East
What
section.
the fuck?
And of all people, you've got Gal Gadot, who was in the IDF, running around with these Arab children that she's rescuing, and it's in the Middle East, and there's terrorists or whatever. So, oh my God, what year is this? We're making a film like that in 2020. It was really cringeworthy, and I'm so disappointed that it went in that direction. And also, I'm sorry, but it showed up everything about Gal Gadot acting.
Yes, it did.
It did, because in the first one, I thought she was good. She's the fish out of water, she's the innocent, she's trying ice cream for the first time. I liked all of that in the first one. But this second one, one just did her absolutely no favours. She is absolutely awful in this film. Her acting, her line deliveries, what she's given. I know it's not entirely her fault because what she's given to do is obviously awful, but it really shows up the fact that she just doesn't have range. She can't convey emotion convincingly.
She's great at the action.
Yeah.
When I watched this when it first came out, I remember messaging you, Dave. I can remember it very clearly.
Yeah.
I said she is great at the action, but she's got all the charisma of a tree. Like, nothing there. It's so bad.
It's bad.
So bad. Oh, just the amount of levels on which they botched this film is just mind-boggling, to be honest, because there's just so many directions it could have gone in, and like every time you're kind of at a point in the script and you think, oh, this could go somewhere, and it just goes in totally the wrong direction. It's like they just made bad decision after bad decision, and it really just piles up by the end.
It's not that I can forgive it, but I think the terrible script, the bad acting, and the messy plot are all, those things can happen. What's not excusable is the CGI is awful. Like, that's just a given these days. The scene where she's, like, jumping in slow motion over a car or whatever it was. I can't remember what she jumps over. Do you remember, Dave?
It's like an army vehicle.
There's some very, very dodgy CGI in it, and
her
I don't
body
know
moves
again.
10 minutes before her head does. It's just ridiculous.
Again, possibly pandemic conditions are involved there. I don't know, but don't.
No, this was done like 2 years
then.
before the pandemic.
Yeah, exactly. It was a long time, wasn't it? We were waiting because it kept getting delayed.
Yeah.
And that wasn't a good sign. And that was even before the pandemic started. It was being delayed, wasn't it? And there were like alarm bells ringing for quite a while before it came out. I love the first one, and I'm just not happy with the way that second one is just tarnished so much. And I mean, I can't get into the wider DCEU because what an absolute shambles the entire thing is. And I just think you had something good there. You had something good, like a precious little pearl. You had Wonder Woman, and you even managed to completely balls that up.
Yeah.
And
I think we've just got to get used to DC movies occasionally being good, rather than it being the rule.
Yeah, and if they're good, it's like entirely by chance. It's just like a fluke, basically. Because apparently this new Suicide Squad one is good. And I just feel like, well, that's a total fluke. The fact that that's good. Like there's literally no planning that has, created the fact that it's good. It's just, let's just release another Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
One came out a couple of years ago. Screw it.
So what are your hopes for Wonder Woman 3 or whatever they're going to call it?
God, I'd rather they pulled the plug. I don't know.
Bizarre, because sometimes we talk about bad films, we can at least pick one good thing. I can't think of any positives in Wonder Woman 84. Like
my literal only one is Chris Pine in some 80s outfits.
That's
it. That's it. Yeah.
No, because I can't even think of that, to be honest. Pedro Pascal was in a different movie.
Yeah.
I don't even understand that. And like you said, Kristen Wiig.
How you can waste her so badly, because she's brilliant. She's a brilliant actress. She's a brilliant comedian. She knew what film she was in. Like she'd obviously turned up on set ready. I'm ready, willing, and able to do what you want of me. I'll be the campy villain or whatever. She was there, and then they just gave her absolute dust. They're just like, completely wasted her.
We're supposed to believe that Kristen Wiig is sort of some sort of dowdy, ugly person as well, just because she's wearing glasses.
Oh yeah. What the fuck is that about?
Classic. That's a classic, isn't it?
I hate that.
She's wearing glasses.
Who do you think's to blame? Is this a studio's fault, or
I do think it. To me, it smacks of too many cooks. So I think there was too much going on. I don't know if it was too many writers or just too much like studio interference in terms of producers. I don't know, but it really smacks to me as if that this was too many people looked at this script or too many people got involved, because it's absolutely chaotic and just it needs streamlining. It needed coherence. It needed one person to take charge and be like, this is what's going to happen and this is how we're going to use the characters. But to me, it just seems like it got passed around. rewrites, possibly reshoots. I don't know what happened with it, but it just really looks like it was messed around with a lot.
I think it's quite sad because I'm thinking, because I've just been listening to Helen O'Hara's Women vs. Hollywood book, and it's now made me very cynical about Hollywood movies. But I'm thinking maybe because it's a female director, that's why studios interfered more, because it that appears to happen. Like if you're a woman in charge of a movie, then people step in
with sequels, because there is a legacy of women directing the first film in a franchise. So this happened with Twilight, it happened with 50 Shades.
Yep.
So a woman will direct the first film and then it gets taken off and given to a man for the second one and the subsequent ones. So the fact that Patty Jenkins was getting to direct the sequel was a big deal. I know we've started to have it now with some MCU films like Black Widow. We're starting to see women directors, but whether they keep them on for the sequel is, remains to be seen.
Yeah.
So the fact that she was getting a sequel was a big deal. I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to say that Patty Jenkins is blameless, because she might not be, but I do hate the thought that she did get interference, because it really looks like it was massively. It looks
like there was a hell of a lot of interference in this movie, to be honest. It
I
doesn't.
agree.
It would, if it was one person's vision, it would be a lot more coherent than it is.
Yeah. I agree completely.
I think I'm going to Suicide Squad. It seems that James Gunn has gone in with a deal saying, I've got a final edit.
Which is why it's probably good, because it looks like it's a James Gunn movie, and he makes fun movies, so that's good. But perhaps trust other people to be allowed, and like Taika Waititi is somebody else who gets to do this, and he was given free rein. It's clear that, for example, with now the Thor character, he is in control. It's his tone, his humour, he gets to have a lot of say. It's obvious. And then they need to have that trust with other people.
The problem with women directors is that men can make bad sequels and they'll get a job pretty much instantly.
Yeah.
A sequel like this could damage someone's career. Like, it took so long for Patty Jenkins she made Monster with Charlize Theron, which is a great film.
Yeah.
And then Wonder Woman, which was years later.
Yeah.
Will her career suffer from this? I think she signed on to a Star Wars Rogue Squadron film at the moment, but that doesn't come out for another 3 years.
Is that a film or like a TV show?
I'm not quite sure, to be honest.
I'm not sure.
And with Star Wars film, I never quite believe it until I'm watching them, because they always get announced every other day, and I've still only seen a handful. So we'll see. She's amazing. Like her vision, her storytelling.
I really doubt that this is the film she wanted to make. I don't think it can be. If you look at her other work, the other work that she's produced, there's no way that she wanted to make this movie. Like this is a studio interfering movie, 100%.
It has that feel.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, someone's been thinking about the money.
Exactly. What is a film that got a sequel, but the first one was so perfect that there was no need for it?
That's a good question.
Thank you. We can throw you some examples to get the ball rolling if you want.
Yeah, go on.
Okay, one I came up with the other day is Taken, because the first one's a very good film. There was no need for a Taken 2 or a Taken 3.
Yeah, that's a good point. There have been lots of examples of this, where the first one was good, and then they decided to sort of turn it into a franchise, and then every subsequent one has just been mediocre at best.
Yeah.
Speed. Speed is a perfect movie. It has a sequel. I just want to remind everyone that a sequel does exist of Speed, and they thought, let's just take this perfect concept, really simple, this streamlined script, perfectly structured, perfectly paced, and let's just take that same concept and just attach it to like a cruise ship. That'll work, I think.
That'll be fine. That will in no way be awful.
Yeah.
It's rubbish.
So that's an example of a perfect film that did not need a sequel, and they tried to give it a sequel, and that was a mistake.
Yeah, as soon as Keanu Reeves said no to that film.
Yeah, that was your first clue.
That was the first clue. Yeah. I don't think loads of people were going, oh yeah, I can't wait to see Sandra Bullock with someone else who may have no chemistry with.
Yeah.
Do something on a much slower vehicle.
That's the thing, isn't it? It's called Speed, and they're on a cruise ship, which is famously not fast.
speaking of Keanu, it may be controversial to say that I personally don't really feel that the Matrix needed sequels.
Ding, ding,
Yes.
ding.
Or should have had them.
Yes. This is sometimes the example we give of films that don't need sequels.
I understand again what they were going for with the sequels, but again, it's a little bit like the George Lucas thing where I feel like they went way too philosophical and started tying themselves in knots with like, oh, it's all very airy fairy and there's like this such, you know, this person kind of in control of everything, but like it's all in your head, and it just went way too kind of like, you know, conceptual and kind of philosophical. I just felt like, do we really need all of this? I mean, again, it does have Jada Pinkett Smith turning up in like a great kind of like metal rock rave kind of scene. That's one of my pretty much only memories of the Matrix sequels, is that there's like this kind of rave in an underground something or other, and she's there wearing leather or something. But yeah.
The best thing about the Matrix sequels was the Matrix computer game that they released on the PlayStation 2 and the GameCube. So there's no need for the movies, but giving more games. But that is a great choice. It's I feel like once they did the Matrix, they're like, oh, it's brilliant, let's do it again. And then they asked them about it. And originally I wanted to make was just a really cool action film with loads of like bullet time and make it a little bit smart. And then the second one, it has got a great chase. If Cameron's listening, it's got a great chase in it. But apart from that, it's absolutely toilet. There's no need for that Keymaster bit, the bollocks at the end, which MTV did such a good spoof of in one of the movie awards with Will Ferrell and Justin Timberlake. If you haven't seen it, that's really good. And then they just try to like, oh, let's be really smart about it. Yeah, lost me.
Smart is not necessarily better. This is the thing, is that they all try and get too clever. This is, you know, their downfall a lot of the time. They try and get too clever. They try and overthink things. Prequels are a classic example of this, is where they try and give backstory to things that don't need backstory. Like Disney's doing all of that at the moment with Cruella, for example. It's just like, you know, do we need the origin story of some villain? And like, you know, it's just you're thinking about this way too much, you're overthinking it, and we don't need any of this shit.
What is your dream sequel?
Okay, I'm amazed that I'm the first one to bring this up, because I really thought this would be a popular answer. There's two that I see mentioned on Twitter a lot. So one is The Nice Guys, and I would be on board for a sequel of The Nice Guys.
100%.
The second one that I see mentioned a lot, and this is my choice, is The Man from U.N.C.L.E., the Guy Ritchie movie. So the reason I get annoyed about the fact that this doesn't have a sequel is that the credit sequence perfectly sets up, well, like the final scene and the credit sequence perfectly sets up a sequel. So you've got Henry Cavill, Armie Hammer, Alicia Vikander, and then you have Hugh Laurie comes in.
Hugh Grant,
this is right
isn't
at the
it?
end.
Hugh Grant.
Hugh Grant comes in and is like, you know, I've got another mission for you kind of thing. It's basically what, you know, the end of the film. And I would have loved to have seen a sequel. And I know it's now an issue with Armie Hammer, but he could easily be replaced. It's not so much about the actors anyway. It's more about that setting. I thought the costume design and production design, the locations, it's like a Bond movie, like the best of Bond, you know, the original Bonds from like the 60s. It absolutely does have that feel to it. I think it's like the script is, you know, Guy Ritchie is by no means a flawless script writer or director. We all know that, and he's had massive hits and misses. Like, you know, his career is a huge roller coaster. But this is, for me, is an example of him really scripting something brilliantly. I think the dialogue's amazing. I think it's really well written. I think it's such a fun film. Like the charisma, the leads. I think, you know, Henry Cavill has never been better. Henry Cavill is not the strongest actor. It's certainly, again, in terms of range, like he has, you know, he's great as, like, say, Superman, for example, but he doesn't really have the kind of range for a whole big, you know, diverse variety of roles. And I think this is one of the films that best used him, because he's got this brilliant mid-Atlantic accent. He's doing this kind of Cary Grant thing. His banter with Armie Hammer, who's playing this like Russian agent, they have this whole, they hate each other. They have a really hilarious fight in public toilets near the start. They have all this like banter all the way through and kind of rivalry. Alicia Vikander is not like my favourite actress, but again, I think she's good here. And I think it really works that there's like three of them. Elizabeth Debicki, it lets her be tall. And she is amazing in this. Like, again, the outfits, oh my God. It's one of the first few films that fully uses her height, that her height versus Henry Cavill is brilliant, because Henry Cavill is not a short person, but he's teamed with Armie Hammer, who's 6'5". Elizabeth Debicki is, I think, 6 foot something or other, 3, I think. And so Henry Cavill looks like this kind of like hobbit in the middle of them, but he's like 6 foot himself. It's just funny anyway. It's just gorgeous. I love the whole kind of, there's like a race sequence where they go to like a Monte Carlo style sort of, Formula One type race. There's, all this plot involving like a bomb and kind of Cold War spy stuff. Oh, I love it.
I enjoy it. I remember watching it and thinking, I'd like to see more of that.
I have been on a podcast, by the way, that's entirely dedicated to Man from U.N.C.L.E. So
brilliant.
Amongst women in particular, it really does have a big, like a fan base, a strong kind of cultish fan base who really go to bat for it.
Okay, before I ask Rich, so why hasn't it not got a sequel? If there's this huge fan base.
Because the fan base I think has grown more in recent years. Like, I think when it came out, it didn't do that well box office.
It made a profit, not much.
And I think it
made a profit.
It's more been people discovering it, I think, at home, and it growing kind of status and people just discussing it. Started to have an upswell of kind of support of like it needs.
Do you think the Armie Hammer
issue?
That's a lovely way of putting it.
Yeah,
has dampened and maybe delayed and become a problem for it?
No, because I think it's a very slim chance that it was going to get a sequel anyway. But I think it's very easily solvable. Like there's no and it's very likely. For example, it wouldn't have had Alicia Vikander's come back. You could easily have done it if you've got one of them. Say if you manage to get Henry Cavill, which again I know isn't especially likely at this stage, but if you say had one of them, I think it could still work.
Yeah.
So even potentially none of them, if it had that same setting and same concept, it could still work.
Yeah. Guy Ritchie still not directing?
Yeah, I will defend him in this case.
Okay.
I do think it should be him, yeah.
Because he's been searching for a franchise for a very long time now. Because he's Rock and Roller, he tried to set up, even at the credits, he said the Rock and Rollers will return.
King Arthur, I think he wanted to be like a whole thing, didn't he?
Yeah, he wanted like 5 sequels to that.
Yeah.
Rich, let's go to you, mate.
I mean,
you watched it for the first time, didn't you?
I watched it for the first time yesterday, and I mean, it's by no means is it the worst film I've ever seen. Definitely. and I totally get what you're saying. It's beautiful. It's beautifully shot. Everyone in it is beautiful. Like
I've rewatched this film so many times. It's a real like comfort film for me. I can rewatch this film anytime. Drop of a hat. I could watch it now and be quite happy.
What it reminded of for me is, I mean, I'm not a massive James Bond fan anyway. That the whole sort of genre, the spy genre.
Okay.
Doesn't massively hit home for me, but for me, this felt like I was watching the film version of like GQ magazine. Like, it looks great. It's full of beautiful people.
That's a big bonus in my eyes.
Yeah.
It's really stylish, but I find it a bit boring. Like, I don't know.
I can't understand finding it boring, because to me it's so funny. It's just like, I think there's so many lines of dialogue that stand out to me and are memorable. It's really funny and charming, and everyone, like I say, is kind of full wattage of charisma going on.
Yeah, it doesn't overstay its welcome as well. It's quite nice. That's a plus point in my eyes.
Yeah, I personally think it's really well structured and paced, and I like when there's because I do get bored by action quite easily, but if there's kind of humour in it, so the fact that like the car chase is funny, when they fight it's funny, so that is like a massive bonus in my eyes. So, you know, the fact that there's so much humour just going on throughout the whole thing, the fact that they're set up as rivals and they're bickering, so like they're like two old women bickering while they're trying to break into like the secret lair or whatever.
Yeah.
That just really appeals to me. I just find it really funny. The fact that they kind of hate each other and they're these big rivals.
Plus, Hugh Grant's great in it again.
Hugh Grant is very good. That Hugh Grant and Elizabeth Debicki, I really like, and I really like them in everything. I think I don't like Armie Hammer, and I didn't know anything about him before. I didn't know any of the controversy stuff. My wife told me after when we.
That's fair enough.
I said I've watched this, and we're talking about a sequel for it, and she went, "Well, I don't know that's going to happen because this has happened. You know, Armie Hammer's cancelled essentially," and I was like, "Oh, that's not a shame."
I do understand people who think, you know, why is he even, you know, getting cast and stuff, and is he even good? I do completely understand that. I do think like his over the top Russian accent, I think kind of works in this. But again, like I say, it doesn't necessarily need him. I think it does ideally need Henry Cavill, hopefully doing that.
Henry Cavill's better, definitely much better.
Yeah.
But sort of, you're absolutely right. He channels that Cary Grant kind of character really well, and that's I can totally see that. And if it was a movie just about him, I would probably have liked it more. I don't know, maybe because it's a Guy Ritchie movie, I expected it to have a clever twist, and it kind of didn't. I kind of like everything that I thought would happen happened basically, and I wasn't going, oh, that's clever. No, I just kind of thought, this is happening.
I get
but it looks great. It is stunningly beautiful, absolutely beautiful, and the costume is amazing. It looks great. But yeah, it just wasn't for me. But I can absolutely see why you would love it.
If you were making a sequel fee, and we say we got Henry Cavill back, who would you? And we couldn't get Hammer; he's in prison or whatever. Who would you cast? Is there a storyline or other actors you would like to see in it, like actresses you like to see play opposite?
That's a good question. So actor-wise, who would I like?
Because they wouldn't have to get whatever that character back. They can get another Russian.
If you were going to go Russian. And still keep that kind of Cold War aspect.
I think you would have to. That's the whole point of it, isn't it?
I think you could get someone like Daniel Bruhl to play Russian.
Oh yeah,
I know he's not Russian in real life, by the way. I know he's German, but you could get him to play Russian in it. I'm trying to think of other good actors who are good.
You know who would be good?
That kind. Go on.
The guy from The Guest. What's his name?
Dan Stevens.
No, I knew one of you was going to suggest that.
He loves him now. He watched The Guest the first time and he loves it.
Yeah, totally.
I can't stand Dan Stevens. And everyone wants to cast him in everything. I'm just like, no. I think he's so bland. So bland.
What about David Harbour's just put on a good Russian accent for Black Widow?
I'm trying to think because you need someone who's like a good contrast to Cavill, so they can't be too like have that sort of good-looking, straight-laced kind of thing.
What about Jack Lowden? Can he do a good?
I really like Jack Lowden.
Love Jack Lowden. That's why.
Interesting that you brought him up. But yeah, someone who could. I was thinking like of British actors when I was starting to think. But yeah, someone who could do a good Russian accent.
You could have a female spy.
Definitely. Women. I'm trying to think. What women?
Not Gal Gadot?
No. Maybe Karen Gillan.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Who else? Florence Pugh, but she's getting a bit too big now. Like, you know, she's not likely to do it.
Scarlett Johansson can do an accent if you need her to.
True.
And be a tree.
We're making a stealth Black Widow sequel here, combined with Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Can you tell what I've watched recently?
Do you not think that Henry Cavill's the funnier one? He's certainly the charming one, isn't he? He's certainly kind of...
Well, he's the British agent, isn't he?
Well, he's American, but yeah, he's the American agent.
Oh, yeah, good point.
But Armie Hammer's kind of the straight one, isn't he? He's the one the kind of humorless one. You almost need another straight man, don't you, really? They don't have to be funny.
That's
they
what
just
I
have
think.
To be like...
I think Daniel Bruhl would do that well.
I think that's perfect casting. What about a bad guy?
Well, I like the fact that it had Elizabeth Debicki as the bad guy in the first one. I mean, again, she would never do it, but like Tilda Swinton.
I'd pay to see that. I'd like to see her be more bad guys. Tilda Swinton. I think she would do.
Me too.
I think that's a great shout.
Again, when I was describing this to my wife, and I was saying, I was trying to think of Elizabeth Debicki, and I was like, she's really tall and really blonde, and she's like, Tilda Swinton? And I was like, no, but that would be good.
That would be good. I think that's a great shout. I would happily watch that sequel. Rich, would you watch a sequel if it came its way?
I don't think I would. But, I mean, I might watch the sequel that you're pitching now, because it sounds quite good, so maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. But like I say, I mean, I'm not really into James Bond, but I have seen them all. I have watched them all because you couldn't avoid them when we were kids. And, I quite like Skyfall because essentially it's Home Alone, isn't it, really, for grown-ups. But, I don't know.
I don't think they'll let this lay dormant forever. I think at one point they'll turn back to it. Maybe not a sequel to the Guy Ritchie film, but I'll have another crack at it.
The Saint has just been announced, which is very similar. Saint with, I think, Regé-Jean Page has just been announced. And obviously The Saint and Man from U.N.C.L.E. are very similar properties in terms of their origins of like 60s TV shows. So, that might reignite something.
So there was a Saint film, wasn't there? Val Kilmer.
He was, yeah. It was rubbish.
I just remember the car from the Saint, the Volvo. That's all I can remember about the 60s TV show. He had a Volvo and it was lovely.
and they tried to make an Avengers film as well with Ralph Fiennes and Uma Thurman, which was a disaster. But that's another cool 60s show that could potentially be reimagined.
I'd love to see a sequel to the Avengers with Ralph Fiennes, and how can you top that bizarre mess? It's like a weird nightmare. It's bizarre. Sean Connery and controlling the weather. It's just, and there's Eddie Izzard in there. There's people dressed up as rabbits at some point.
It was around the same time as the Batman kind of George Clooney, Val Kilmer era, I think.
Oh.
This is my only explanation for why it was the way it was, is that it felt kind of Batman-y.
The time that movies went bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it felt a bit like one of those.
So those were Fiona Underhill's Unequal sequels.
Yes, they were. I loved it. Again.
Yeah, I always love it. I love this podcast. It's amazing. If I wasn't making it, I'd definitely listen to it. And I don't want to say that because I listen to it anyway, even though it's weird. I drive along in my car listening to myself talk. It's great.
I love talking about Scream 2.
Me too. I really like Scream 2. And that was a great choice. Absolutely brilliant choice. And watching it back again, the scary moviness does come into it. But I think that makes it, I think that makes it even more.
Yeah. And you don't like Man from U.N.C.L.E.?
No, I'm sorry. I wish I did, but I just don't think I'm wired that way. I just don't really like spy movies very much.
I think you're wrong. I quite like to see another sequel, but I respect your decisions and it's your opinion. And as I say, your opinion can't be wrong because it's your opinion.
Yeah, exactly. It's just my opinion. I'm more than happy to be in the minority that have this opinion. I'm sure there's loads of people that disagree with me.
But we can all agree Wonder Woman 84 is still rubbish.
Oh yeah, still a big load of poop. Which again is a massive shame because I really wish that film was good.
Yeah, it was great having Fiona on. Please check out Jumpcut Online, where she's editor-in-chief. It's a wonderful, wonderful movie website / podcast with Jumpcast. They've just got new presenters. A lot of us have just stood down and been replaced.
Oh, yeah, lovely. We'll give that a listen.
So that's exciting.
Yeah.
Give that a listen. Please give us a listen. We're on the internet.
Dave, they are giving us a listen now. They wouldn't be hearing you say that if they weren't giving us a listen already.
Please continue listening and tell other people where you can find our podcast.
And, binge listen to all the other episodes if you've not listened to them already. If this is the first one you're tuning into, go back and give the rest a binge.
There's 8 other episodes plus bonus episodes, so 6 ever.
There's loads.
Yeah.
And it's so good.
And if you've just, randomly picked us, you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Unequal Sequel, and we have an email address. You can email us at unequalsequel@hotmail.com. I think that's all my promotion done.
And massively exciting for me is that we're Indie Podcast of the Week.
Yes! Until the next one.
Pod Bible magazine. Until next week. So shh. Yeah, indie podcast of the week. Get us, eh?
Well done, Rich.
Well, you know, I just turned up, mate. You do all the planning. I just turn up and talk nonsense that no one agrees with. It's fine. That's what I'm here for.
That's not true.
Thank you very much for joining us. It was wonderful to talk to Fiona. I can't wait to be back with you next week. We have a really, really good guest lined up again.
We do.
Such good guests on this podcast.
Number 10. Can you believe it? We've made it to number 10.
Number 10. Oh my God. There's only 3 more episodes to go of this series.
Yeah, that's what we planned.
Wow.
To be fair, we first said 8, and then we went to 10, and now we've gone to 12.
12, yeah. But we'll be back with series 2 before you know
Yeah, exactly.
it, won't we, right? You know, so this is the next one will be the penultimate
Yes.
episode.
Yes.
And then we'll be of this series. Then we'll be back for series 2 later in the year.
Yes. But we'll still have the bonus stuff.
Because there's no chance we're not doing Ghostbusters when that comes out.
Yeah, and Top Gun.
Maybe we'll just carry on doing a few extra episodes in between.
I think the bonus stuff will probably continue, yes. Just so, we're still here. Don't forget about us. Please don't forget about us.
Yeah. You can't forget about us because you get the Baywatched podcast going at the same time.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, check that out.
Yeah. Listen to us ramble on about Baywatch. Join us next week. Fantastic episode coming. We'll see you soon. Bye.
Have a good week. Bye.